Salam Radio wishes all of our community Ramadan Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, and welcome to the Property Wise Show on Salam Radio on 106.2 FM. I'm your host, Shaz Nawaz. And I'm here with Kieron Bateman. And Kieron, this is your turn to get me back, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I think there's a ghost in the machine.
There is. Or at least one ghost.
Yes, at least.
But there you go. As always, we'd love for you to get in contact with us. So you can call us on 01733 602 133. You can text us on 07411 191 062 or contact us via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or Twitch, and we'd love for you to get in contact. As we've said on every single program, we're not here to give investment advice because we're not regulated and we don't have the expertise to give for you personal investment advice. So everything we share with you is purely information purposes. You need to do your own research and then go away and speak to a financial advisor who can give you the correct insurance. We're also not here to give you an Islamic opinion. So when we're talking about interest or other financial instruments, again, it's just sharing information. If you're comfortable with it, you can research it further. If you have a particular opinion, then obviously you don't need to research any further. On that note, Kieron, how have you been so far? Because you've been fasting now since obviously Thursday before last. So how's it going?
I have. It's going really, really well, actually. I haven't missed a fast. Is that the right
Yeah, that's good
term?
Yeah. You've observed every single fast.
Yeah, I've observed every single one. And I've observed it. Usman sent me a calendar of when to open, when to close. So I've been following that. And it's been good. I've been okay with it. It's
so far. What are the personal benefits that you found?
For me, ironically, less food has equaled more energy. More energy, more focus. As you know, we're starting earlier at the moment as well, and that
As in starting work earlier.
Yeah. Starting work early. We're starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. Which I'm not a morning person. I'm not part of the 5 a.m. club. It does not work for me.
Even after a week and a half, still not.
Even after 2 weeks of it. You ask me to work until 3 o'clock in the morning. You ask me to work till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm your man. I'm there. I can do the later half of the day into the early part of the morning far easier than I can do the early part of the day into the early part of the afternoon. But that's just my personal foible there. But overall, yeah, we've got an amazing amount of work done over the last 2 weeks.
Incredible.
Frankly. And yeah, a lot of that with more focus than we had before we started fasting.
Well, it's different, isn't it? And we've talked about time management previously. And you turn up at 5 in the morning or some point in the morning, no phone calls, no emails, minimal interruptions, less people to talk to in the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're there and you've made the effort. You think, I'm going to sit here now and I'm going to do my work because I made the effort to come in early. Whereas when you roll in at 8:30, even 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, whatever time, and then all the other noise has been turned up, you get less done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on a non-Ramadan day, don't forget you roll in at 9, 8:30, 9, whatever. You get into work, you sit down, you say hello, you get up, you go get a coffee, you sit down, you ponder your emails for a second before you start drinking your coffee, and the day just takes longer to get going.
Absolutely. So it's working really well. But
how have you found it? I mean, as someone who's experienced and done this all their life,
I think the first 2, 3, 4 days for most people, for me the first couple of days, are always challenging because they're different.
Yeah.
You change your entire routine and then you just get into flow and then you just kind of goes. Initially, sometimes you might think it's going to be a long month, and then before you know it, time's gone. You know,
all of a sudden we're halfway through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once you're halfway through, I think it goes really fast, and then usually the last kind of 10 days really fly by, and you'll kind of feel and notice that too.
I
But
look forward to it.
it's a great opportunity, isn't it, just to reset, do things differently.
Yeah,
We talked previously, obviously, about mindset in terms of challenging yourself, being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yep.
This is partly that for you, at least, if not anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And, timing couldn't have been better because, it's at a time where we have a lot to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And we might do it again.
Yeah,
Before-
absolutely.
mm,
I
next time around.
will, after doing it this time around, honestly, I will probably observe it every time.
Welcome to the club. In the first half, we're going to talk about mindset. And
Yeah,
then we're going to
absolutely.
talk about commercial versus residential. In the second half, we're going to talk about pensions. But we won't talk about the second half right now. We'll just stay focused on the first half because focus is our mantra for the month of Ramadan, isn't it, Kieran?
Absolutely.
And in terms of mindset, what's really interesting is I've heard the story a few times, and it's not kind of funny, but it's supposed to be funny, and some people might find it funny. So there's a couple, parents, husband and wife, and they've got a child, and
Well, they wouldn't be parents if they didn't have a child.
yeah, just follow the story. And the child isn't talking, and she's at a particular age where she should be more than talking, and everybody around her is talking. The parents are really, really worried, so they take her to doctors, consultants, specialists, and she still doesn't talk. So they're really, really, really worried. And one day at dinner, she takes the broccoli from her table, okay, and just wipes it off her plate and just chucks it on the floor, and said, "This tastes horrible." "Wow, you can talk all this time. You can talk." She said, "Yeah, of course I can." And I said, "But you never talked." I said, "That's because I had no reason to talk." And the point of that is, quite often, when people won't say anything to you in terms of giving you feedback, because you're not giving them a reason to give you any feedback. So don't make that your own reality, that everything's absolutely fine, just because people aren't giving you feedback, by the way. It's just because some aren't giving you feedback. Some may have some feedback for you. In this particular case of the story, she had no feedback until she got to a particular age. Or maybe there were other things she didn't like, but she didn't find them as repulsive. That's probably not the word to use, but she probably tolerated those more.
Yeah,
than
more tolerable.
The broccoli. So that this is my time to speak, and that happens quite often, doesn't it? When you've got somebody who says to you, I'm not happy or whatever, and they have an outburst, and then they'll give you a list of 64 things over the last 84 years that they don't like. You think, well, you've never mentioned any of those before, but they store them all up, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah, they do. And there's, I don't know what she's got against broccoli personally. It's one of my favourites. But
you must be an oddball.
well, maybe. But yeah, on that side of things, yeah. But you can't always go around assuming that you're not doing things right, because sometimes there is no feedback because you are doing things right. But flip side, you can't always go around feeling like you've done nothing right and that you need to criticize everything yourself because nobody's giving you feedback. That is a balance within your own mindset to decide where you are going, or to surround yourself with people that will give you feedback. And finding those people can sometimes be challenging. And like you say, sometimes somebody won't give you feedback for 2, 3, 4, 5, 84 years, and then when they do, everything comes out, and you think to yourself, well, if you'd have told me then when it would matter then, I would have done something about it then. But I can't do anything about it now because it's too late. Why did you wait so long? And there's a myriad of excuses that people will give you as to, oh, well, why I didn't feel like that. But understand that 50% of that does reflect on you. How approachable you are, how open you are, how honest people can feel they can be around you. And we've spoken about this before, about looking in the mirror and knowing yourself first. If you know in yourself you can have that difficult conversation with yourself, it will be easier for others to have those. Because there aren't many people that I have met that enjoy tearing someone down or telling someone they're doing wrong or telling someone that it's not right.
Very small minority, probably, if there are.
Yeah. Most people I have found are good, decent human beings who want to do good in the world and want to build each other up rather than tear each other down. And the thought then of, well, you did that wrong. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Suddenly they feel in themselves bad about giving you that feedback.
Something interesting you mentioned is about you could be doing things right, but I think there's a huge difference, Kieran, in doing things right and doing the right things right.
Yeah,
big difference.
There is.
And something that I was taught was that being efficient is doing things right. Being effective is doing the right things right. I think it's Peter Drucker, in fact, who said that. So
absolutely right.
What's important, I guess, is to figure out what the right things are, then do them right in a better way. So that's the first point. And the second point, which is, I think, really powerful, which a lot of people, we're all guilty of this, by the way, to some extent, don't do enough of. And it's a fantastic book by Edward Kramer. If you get hold of it, you'll do really well, called The Positive Power of Negative Preparation. Think about all the things that could possibly go wrong in any situation. Okay, because we're talking about property, in your property project or property ownership or property development, and then have some kind of a plan B or some kind of a solution for them, so you're prepared.
Is that a bit like failure to plan is planning to fail?
Yes, but generally we plan for kind of success, or we plan to do certain things. So I think this particular maxim, if I can call it that, is probably more popular and common in the army. Well, all the things that are going to go wrong or could go wrong or may go wrong that we need to prepare for when they do happen, you're prepared. It's not coming as a shock or surprise. You just, open that part of your notepad or wherever you got your stuff saved up in the cloud or wherever. And this is actually big. We're going to deal with this. So is that situation similar? It is. Okay, let's go ahead with this. Secondly, once you've prepared, then rather than, like I said, being shocked about it, you go into implementation mode. But secondly, you're going to be a bit more relaxed about it, because in your mind, or when you've
already solved this problem,
solved it, and you were kind of expecting it but hoping it doesn't happen. And I think that this is something extremely powerful, which is prepare for all the things that can go wrong, or maybe hang around with some negative people. We've all got 1, 2, or 3 of those: uncle, aunt, friend, neighbor, whatever else. Okay, the naysayers, can never be done. But sit with them until I'm doing this particular property project, and then they'll give you the 64 or 164 reasons that things aren't going to work. Ka-ching, bang, got all the reasons now. Now let's address them one by one. So if any of these happen, how am I going to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great way of stopping, I say stopping failure before it happens, but controlling failure as a lesson.
Being ready for it. Because the one thing that everybody, you talk about planning. What's the only thing guaranteed in a plan?
That any battle plan never survives first contact with the enemy.
Is that your reference to Art of War by any chance? But
Sanju
is the only thing guaranteed is a plan, and things aren't going to go to plan.
Yeah.
Plan. So if we know that and we agree with it, then let's plan for everything that we think may go wrong and be fully prepared and ready.
Yes, but don't let that planning, don't get into planning paralysis, because too often, you and I have both seen a number of people that will, oh yeah, but what about this, 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 but and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And 98%, 99% of what they're worried about is never going to happen.
But that's them in general, isn't it?
It is, but it's that balance, isn't it? Is understanding and knowing what could go wrong and planning for it is completely different from being paralyzed in the planning stage by everything that can go wrong.
I think the majority of people in my experience, Kieran, is if they're concerned about what could possibly go wrong, if they then can or could come up with an answer or solution that puts their mind at rest.
Yeah.
Well, what if I run out of money? I'll have no more money left. Okay, let's list the 34 ways that you could raise money at that time, and let's get one or two ready, prepared for you anyway that are really easy ones, i.e. friends, family members, other people who can assist you, bridging finance, whatever it may be for that particular property project.
Because you never know what happens in a project.
So you know that if the need arises, you've got that there. Or if it takes longer, or if the builder or contractor runs away, all those other things that people talk about. So I think once
what if your first choice bank pulls out?
I mean, we've had it all, as you know.
Absolutely.
Over the years, sometimes all together, which we'll talk about
and that
another
can
episode.
Sometimes be painful.
It's good though. Like I said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
See, I prefer the maxim: what doesn't kill me should start running.
yeah, because you're coming after it. But I think that today's mindset is all about saying focus on the downsides as much as you focus on the upside.
Yeah,
hope is fantastic, but so is preparation. And think about all the negatives and then turn them into positives, because it's a bit like objections, isn't it, Kieran? People say, oh, well, I'm trying to sell a service or sell an idea, and people are objecting. Well, objections are questions, and questions lead people closer to the sale, so to speak. So if somebody has all these objections or negative thoughts, and if you help them address them, then you're more likely to get them on your side.
Hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Absolutely. So that's our thought for this week. Commercial versus residential. Which one do you prefer, Kieran?
Honestly, I prefer commercial to residential, as you well know. But as we discussed on the way over here, in fact, we were discussing this. There are certain, when you buy a commercial property, and if you are intending to do a commercial conversion, sometimes, there are caveats, rules, regulations, requests put in that you leave a certain percentage or a certain size of the property as a commercial unit, either letting out to commercial entities or putting commercial entities in there.
Well, if you've got a view out there, feel free to contact us on 01733 602 133 or text us on 07411 191 062 or contact us via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or Twitch, because we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts in terms
Absolutely, I'd love to see.
Which do you prefer? Which one do you think may be better? If you're looking to go into property, which one tickles your fancy, so to speak?
Or if anyone out there is already in property and they've done these things, be fantastic to hear
Share
from
your
you.
opinion. But I think you and I both like commercial to residential conversions, but sometimes somebody who, let's say, hasn't got the experience may find it pretty daunting to start something like that, because there's a lot of moving parts in terms of what you have to do to get from a commercial property to a residential property, as in using the same one to convert. So if we're looking at, I think, hardcore nose to nose, toes to toes, belly to belly, comparing those two, I prefer commercial.
See, I'm not entirely sure, and I'll tell you for why. Commercial units, if you have commercial units are in generally per square foot cheaper than residential units, so the barrier to entry is lower. But there are more regulations. There's more understanding that you need to have in terms of which shops can go in, what laws they have to apply, what rules there are surrounding it, what regulations there are. all of that you can do through due diligence, and you should do through your due diligence.
When you're buying the property,
Yeah, yeah. Do that first. Don't do it last.
Yeah.
What were we just saying about mindset? Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah.
But knowing, have that information at your fingertips, understand it, know it, get involved with it. And generally, commercial leases are leases, so they're a much longer term in terms of contractually than standard residential rental properties. So on that front, commercial could be considered a stronger option, but residential is vanilla. I'm going to say it's safe, it's understood, it's easier to get your head around at a basic level. If you've never done anything before, I would go residential. If you're experienced and you want to test the waters with commercial and see if you like it, then by all means. But I think they both have their pros and they both have their cons. If I was gonna do it, I would get into residential. I would do residential first. I know you prefer commercial.
I do. I think, as you've alluded to, first of all, you've got leases.
Yep.
So you can have a tenant with a 20-year lease. Okay. They may have a break clause, so at some point before the 20 years, they have an opportunity to vacate. You have an opportunity to ask them to vacate. So it could be a two-way open break. It could be a one-way break, by the way. But you can have a long-term break with options. Section 24 doesn't affect you, so you can claim, if you have a loan on it, you can claim all the finance costs. With residential property in your own name, as you know, you can't claim all the finance costs if you're a high-rate taxpayer. So you've got that. Usually, and more so on smaller deals and smaller properties, you usually only have one tenant to deal with. So think about it. You buy a house. Let's talk about Peterborough. 200,000, 250,000. I know it varies, but that's the average. Okay. So with commercial property, the cost could be higher. So it could be 500, 750. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, you could have one tenant. Yeah. Whereas if you're spending or investing 500 or 750, it could be two properties, it could be three properties. You need the numbers. So you got lots of people to deal with.
Yeah.
So I like it from that particular point of view. You can claim capital allowances, which basically allows you to write off some of your profit for tax purposes, which works exceptionally well. If you've got a full repairing and insuring lease, the tenant's responsible for the expenditure and usually all the internal expenditure as well. So if the boiler breaks down, they've got to get it fixed. Okay. If the sink's blocked, they've got to get it fixed. Okay. If the door handle falls off, it's their responsibility. If the carpet needs changing or the tiles need replacing, their responsibility.
And it's got to be returned to you in the same state it was given to them.
Absolutely. So you just give it all away. You just get it insured and then sit in pretend, this is what the insurance cost me. Can you pay or reimburse me for this which I've paid? So that gets you covered there. Usually the externals aren't covered usually, but then you can have some kind of a fund or get them to contribute towards that too, depending on your lease. So I think that works exceptionally well. And if you own the commercial property for yourself, I know we're talking about renting here, in your business, then you claim entrepreneur's relief, which is business asset disposal relief.
Yeah.
So you'd only pay 10% on the disposal as long as you didn't charge any rent to your business.
And as long as you don't go into the same sector for the next 2 years.
Yeah, that is if you're doing a members voluntary liquidation, which will come to in a second.
Okay.
You got rollover relief as well, because you've sold your business, you can roll over that gain into the business with the property. And you've got BPR, so if you pass away and the value of your assets less than 50% of the business, which is usually for most people tends to be the case, especially if they own the property for long enough and it's owned outright cash. This is in a trading business, by the way.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
And then when that passes over to your loved ones, no inheritance tax. And as you've said, if you've sold your business and then you've sold your property with it, or subsequently within 3 years, and all the money's stuck in a property, in a company, property company, or a trading company, you can do a member's voluntary liquidation and claim business asset disposal relief. So that's all the reasons, Kieron, why I love commercial property, and I think it works extremely well, and the returns are really good as well. You can get 10-15% yield if you're really sharp and smart about it. The return on capital employed is even higher. So I'm a big fan of commercial property, and that's why commercial to residential works better for me. But if that wasn't my main thing, I think I'd be investing more in commercial property personally.
Yeah, I can see that.
But the beauty about this conversation, of course, is to demonstrate that we're all different. So
there are so many options.
So we have the strategy we've talked about, which different people like different strategies, and that's absolutely fine. But we're just going to go towards a break. In the second half, we're going to talk about pensions, so tune in, because this is going to be a really eye-opening session for you. See you in a few minutes after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Desi Restaurant is your place for Sehri and Iftari this Ramadan. Enjoy our freshly cooked paratha, desi chicken korma, kadhi pakoda with doodh patti from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Try our Iftari menu. Dishes include papadi chaat, chersi kadahi dishes, lamb shanks and much more. We offer parking off Oxford Road and delivery or collection options for your convenience. Desi Restaurant, 298 Lincoln Road, or call us on 01733 555 795.
This year, for the first time, residents must show photo ID when voting at the local elections on May the 4th. You may already have an acceptable form of photo ID, such as a passport or driving licence. But if you don't, you can apply for a free voter ID document known as a Voter Authority Certificate on the Peterborough City Council website. You must apply for your free voter ID certificate by April the 25th. For more information, go to www.peterborough.gov.uk and search for Voter ID.
Masterminds Tuition Academy is for your high schoolers, your something to provers, your subject strugglers and keen learners, your brave jumpers and fist pumpers. Affordable personalised learning plans are delivered through our centres in schools across Peterborough. But not to worry, we also provide online and home visits with flexible timings. Whether it is maths, English, science or 11 plus, Masterminds is a must. Find us on all socials and visit our website mastermindstuitionacademy.com or call us on 07516 166 003. Masterminds, master the matrix.
The holy month of togetherness and sharing is upon us. Bring your family together with Elephant Atta, the nation's favourite atta for over 60 years. This Ramadan, Elephant Atta is offering special discounts on medium and fine white chapati atta, available in convenient 10 and 25 kg bags. Make this Ramadan one to remember with Elephant Atta.
Satisfy your cravings at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant. Enjoy a tantalizing variety of Chinese, Italian, Pakistani and comfort food favourites, from starters to desserts. Kids under 5 dine for free, so bring the whole family to our location at 63 Sycamore Avenue. Open every day from 5 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. Call us on 01733 313131 or book online to reserve your table. Ibrahimi-restaurant.co.uk. Every bite is a delight at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant.
You could be driving, you might be cooking, you could even be working. But whatever you're doing, you're also listening to Salam Radio. And if you're in business, your potential new customers could be listening too. So talk to them and let them know what you have to offer. Advertising on Salam Radio is affordable and effective. And by doing so, you're also supporting this valuable and important voice within the community. Right now, there are special Ramadan advertising offers available too. Call 07866 319 679 or find Salam Radio online and across social media.
Salam Radio wishes all of our community Ramadan Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Salam Radio. You're listening to 106.2 FM and it's the Property Wise show with myself, Shaz.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to
Kieron
the Children's Hour with me, your host, Yusuf.
How's it going?
Well, the ghost is still alive and still with us.
Still alive and well.
So that we know about. So in this half, in the first half, we talked about commercial property versus residential and why you and I have a different view on that. We also talked about the positive power of negative preparation and making sure you look at the downsides as much as, if not more, than you look at the upside. So that was a very interesting and useful conversation. This half, as we promised, we're going to talk about, go a bit deeper into finances. And more so into pensions. So we have a guest called Kevin Whelan, who I've known for many years, and he and I have done lots of work together. He's an economist, he's an author, he's the founder of Wealth Builders, and one of the UK's leading experts and authorities on SAS, small self-administered pensions, and it really is a game changer. In terms of how you can use a pension in property, Kieron, by the way, and obviously you know about this, but we're going to go into a lot more detail. He's articulate, he's insightful, he's been on radio, TV, print, written books, and is a small business owner himself and advises small business owners, and he's very, very passionate about improving financial literacy for children.
Which is fantastic.
Absolutely, because if you start children early, because I think we talked about this a few episodes ago in terms of teaching children to become financially literate is extremely important in the early years. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Hello there, Shaz. What a great introduction. Thank you very much. I didn't realise it accomplished so much in such a short life.
I thought I would be nice to you, and I bet your good lady or your parents, if they're still alive, probably wouldn't recognize you with that introduction, would they?
They would not recognize me at all. In fact, it was the tragic death of my father at a very young age that led me to conclude that often it's the business owner who needs to get round to doing things, just don't, because they feel like they're often Superman or Superwoman wearing their vest outside of their knickers, and they want to know that everything is going well, but sometimes, they need to put some time into putting things right. And financial literacy is one of those. Taking care of wills and trusts is one of those. But also sometimes missing out on the juice that's in budgets. And we had a fantastic budget, but most people just walked on by it, Shaz.
What was so good about this budget, Kevin?
Well, there's always a bit of bad news, and most people pick up on the bad news. The freezing of allowances, the reducing of the capital gains tax allowances, headline corporation tax going up, and even car tax going up, although I feel somewhat smug with my electric car. But anyway, utility bills going up at more than inflation, and water going the same way. But, there was a couple of really, really big points for me. One is the abolition of the lifetime allowance for pensions. In other words, up until now, the government, for whatever reason, have said, we're going to restrict how much money you can get tax relief on, get tax benefits from, if you hold them inside a pension. Now, pensions are not everybody's favorite subject, but if they're free of income tax, corporation tax, capital gains tax, and inheritance tax, well, you're an accountant, you talk about helping people save tax, you've got to pay attention to that.
What's not to like then?
Well, other than for most people, what's not to like is a pension is something you put into a box and do not disturb till 65 or whatever.
Oh, pensions are a dark art.
They are a dark art, and I'm definitely a bit of a magician when it comes to that one, and I would say that the great thing about SAS, the small self-administered scheme, bit of a mouthful, know that's for sure. But essentially it's a trust fund created by a business to get their tax back and use the money to help build their wealth. That's basically what it is. But because it's couched in this dark arty language, Most people don't get it. But when you can claim back corporation tax and then reinvest that money either in your business or in other assets or property, then essentially getting that tax back is like getting a discount on the value of whatever you are just going to buy with it. And while it's not technically a discount, but if you 10,000 and you pay 7.5 for it, then you've got £10,000 worth of value for 7.5 grand, haven't you? Really? So I think the good thing is the abolition of the lifetime allowance.
And by the way, Kevin, I mean, as you said, not everybody keeps up to date with taxes or pensions, and that's why there's people like you out there who are experts. What was the lifetime allowance, just in case somebody wasn't aware of it?
Yeah, so that lifetime allowance, that sort of maximum figure before tax starts to get a bit, starts to rear its head, wasn't contributions, but it was value. And that value started off unlimited many, many years ago. Then it went to 1.8 million, then 1.5, then 1.25. Now it's, well, as we speak today, it's 1 million, 1,073,000 if you want to be precise. But from 3 days' time, it's unlimited. So you can have as much money as you want. And bearing in mind, a SAS can be a family plan. Most pensions are a single-person vehicle, like paddling your own canoe. And if you paddle your own canoe for a long time, you get a bit tired, don't you?
Absolutely.
Whereas a SAS can have up to 11 people in there. Now, football team, well, you're not really going to create a SAS with a football team. What about a small business with 2 directors, or a husband and wife, or a husband, wife, and 3 grown-up children? And you can really get power by pooling money and then using that money to help build your wealth completely tax-free. And when everything is tax-free, no taxes at all, your money grows much more quickly because you're paying less in taxes, and when you know what you're doing, you're paying less in charges than a conventional pension, because like running a business, you're not paying an advisor. Normally, if you're dealing with conventional pensions, you're paying an advisor, you're paying a platform, you're paying fund managers, and when you add up the 7 layers of charges, often as a percentage, doesn't sound much, 2% maybe is the average, but if the average stock market return is 6%, that's a third of your money just going to pay for somebody else. It's like being in the Matrix, someone sticking a siphon in your money. Whereas with the SAS, you run it yourself. I mean, yes, you can learn, and that's what we do, is teach that. So if you can run a business, you can run a SAS, but you can employ someone to do some of that work, often for no more than 1,000 or more a year. And that means you're dividing the cost of running your pension and not allowing someone to stick a siphon in it, and you choose to do what you want. So if you love property, as you do, Shaz, and I do, you can buy more property, whether it's commercial, whether it's land, whether it's com-to-resi, service accommodation, supported living. You name the strategy, your pension can help you do that, which means you can get an income now. You don't have to wait till you're 65. You can get it today. Well, it takes about 4 months to set it up. So you could get it in 4 months from now if you got your finger out. So that's why I'm excited about it. That's why I think it's a great bit of good news.
So, Kevin, if your SAS is big enough, does that mean you could essentially utilise it as your own bank, essentially?
Yeah, correct.
So therefore,
there are some restrictions and some rules, but once you understand them, yes, you've got an unlimited tax-free bank account that you can use to help you build your wealth in whichever assets you want. Property, business, crypto, stocks and shares, gold, whatever you're interested in, you can do. It's not for me or people like me to say what you should do, but just what you can do. And once they've also allowed 60 grand a year is a contribution you can put in and go back and mop up relief from previous years, there's now a great deal of scope for people to get excited about pensions and maybe start putting money in instead of going, pensions aren't for me. Well, maybe they could be.
So if you maxed out your pensions in previous years, hypothetically, so previous years it was 40,000, I want to say?
40,000, yeah.
As of April, could you go back and mop up the last 3 years, the extra 20 grand a year to bring it all up to 60 grand?
No, you can't. So the carry forward of the unused relief, technical term, just going back and saying, hey, I didn't pay in when I could have done, can I mop it up? You can only mop up at the rate that was available in the years available. So going back 3 years from, well, April coming, is going to be 40, 40, 40, and then 60. So essentially, you've got to pay the maximum the current year, 60, and then you've got 40, 40, 40. So you could do 180. So the maximum, 180. You can have 180. Exactly, you can do 180. Not that everybody wants to do that and everybody can do that. But for those who get the message that if you put 180, and you take 25p in the pound off that because this year the tax rate's going up, then you're going to get a quarter of that money back. And that's just incredible news. And not really
huge,
so many pick that up. Yeah.
That's a game changer. So a significant number of our viewers and listeners, you won't be surprised to hear, Kevin, are either property investors, developers, or looking to get into property. So if we've got somebody, let's say, with a portfolio of 4 or 5 properties that they own in a limited company, can they do this too?
Yes, they can. So all you need to do is you have one of the key factors which allows this has to be set up, that tax-free trust fund. It's set up on behalf of a family or business, but by and sponsored by the business itself. So the business seeks permission to then grant a license to set up essentially a corporate pension for the beneficiaries, which would be the directors. So if you want to do that, you can do that with your business, whether it's a trading business or a property business, any kind of business. As long as it's established, then you can apply to HMRC and yes, get some guidance on how to do that and whether it's a good fit for you or not. But you can apply to HMRC, and then once you've got that, which about 4 months later, you've now got that vehicle that you can not just build up a tax refund, but also you can access the money to help you do more of what you love to do.
I mean, that just sounds absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? But with all of this, obviously, there's going to be certain hoops to jump through and certain things you can and can't do. Is there any big glaring things that people need to be aware of in terms of what could prevent them from accessing
Good
it?
question. Good question. 2 glaring things. Number 1, you need to be willing to learn about this, because who's ever been a SAS trustee before? You have to learn to be a trustee, and a trustee is just somebody who runs something. So just as you've got a limited company and you're a director, a SAS is just a pension where you are the trustee. So it's the same roles, really. So you have to be willing to learn about that. So if you're willing to learn, you've got to put some time into it. Maybe a few hours a month, something like that. So that's, glaring point number 1. And number 2, you have to follow rules because, the rules are not going to be explained by me in a short phone call with you guys, but there are rules and they're not onerous if you get some help to follow the rules. And one of the ones that I think probably is the most obvious is you can't put your buy-to-let inside your pension and make it tax-free. But you can't do that. But you could put land in there, or a commercial property, or a barn, or a pub, or you could lend money back. The SAS allows you to lend up to 50% of the value. So say you put your money together with, say it's a husband and wife team, they've got a business in property, and they've kind of run out of money, or they don't really want to be borrowing money from the bank because interest rates are going up or it's getting tighter. Let's say they got 200,000 each because they came from corporate life. They've now got 400,000 pounds in their pension. They can lend 200 grand back to themselves as the limited company and then use that money to buy residential property if they want to.
So hold on a minute, Kevin. So what you're saying is I can make contributions into a pension pot every single year and get tax relief. And when those funds are invested, there's no income tax, corporation tax,
capital gains tax.
If I own any assets to there, which I sell, inheritance tax. And then if my wife and I have a pot together, we can lend money back to ourselves and use those funds on buying more residential property?
That's correct.
That is an absolute game changer for a lot of people who contact us, Kieron, isn't it? Because they always say, well, I don't mind putting money into a pension, but it's stuck there. How do I get it out?
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is where you were, Kieron, talking about being your own bank. Now, you won't be surprised to hear, Kevin, that some of our listeners, viewers, followers follow the Jewish faith or the Muslim faith. So in terms of making investments into certain types of businesses they're not comfortable with, that's why they don't invest with some of the bigger pension companies. So with the SAS, what you're saying for them is they've got ultimate control and they can decide where they invest those funds. So they can do it in keeping and in line with their Jewish or Muslim faith.
Indeed.
And
absolutely right. Because there's no requirement to be investing in the convention of the stock market. You don't have to invest a penny in the stock market or any market come to that. You can use that money for whatever investments that you have got the confidence and knowledge in, and it passes the test that says you can invest in this. So a couple of things you can't do. One I've mentioned already, which was you can't put buy-to-let property in there, but equally you can't have what's known as tangible movable property. Us people involved in these things like to have a bit of language or two. And tangible movable property is stuff like paintings, watches, jewellery, horses, yachts. You get the picture? Well, actually, you can't get the picture. Yeah. You can't do that, okay? So you can't do that, and you can't put resi property in. But you can use the money to acquire residential property through the loan facility, and basically you can use that money as deposits to buy commercial-type property. So many different strategies will involve commerciality, as I've mentioned a few minutes ago. So, yeah, it's an exciting prospect, but you do have to learn the rules. That's the thing, and that's why, like anything in life, you get a little bit of guidance, but that guidance should be worth its weight in gold. And yes, you can buy gold bullion as well, but worth its weight in gold because it's going to show you how you can get access to your money, get the government to give you tax back on your profits, and maybe for the first time, Shaz, here's the law, maybe some property business owners who are making profits decide to reinvest their profits instead of just reinvesting straight out into other property. Maybe they'll make some profit and go, hey, I'm making profit from my apart hotel or my service accommodation. Maybe I'll reinvest some of that money, get some tax relief, get the tax back, and then go again and recycle their own money.
So just so I'm clear, when somebody sets up a SAS, can they or can they not buy gold bullion using their...
Yes, they can. Because that's not tangible and movable. I mean, okay, it was in the Brinksmat jewellery and whatever it was in the 1970s that was movable. 3 tons of gold was stolen. But generally speaking, bonded gold held in a vault, can be bought in a SAS. And I know certain people have a liking for gold, and if you like gold, you can acquire and buy gold and hold gold and get the tax back from it. So if you're paying 25p in the pound, you get your 25p in the pound back. Essentially, you've got a discount on the price of gold.
You know me too well now, Kevin. I'm going to have to do something about this. But before I do, I think Kieron wants to come in.
So, if you lend yourself and your company money from your SAS, does it follow similar rules to if you give like a director's loan to your company when you're setting it up in terms of preferential creditors and security and how you pay it back?
There are rules. They're not linked to directors' loans. The directors' loans are very different because this is a third-party, essentially an arm's-length loan where the rules are set by the revenue to include the money must go to the company. There's a minimal interest rate, which is 1% over base. The loan period is 5 years, things like that. So there are rules you have to follow, but that's something that can be learned. So it's just, again, like anything, the purpose of having conversations like this is to headline some things that might be interesting news. And then, if you find someone you resonate who knows what they're talking about, you might be able to discover by a bit more research and due diligence, is this SAS idea a good fit for you or not?
Well,
And that's
suddenly I
the
need
kind
to
of
go
role
on
that-
Google.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin,
I've got
I mean,
questions.
time goes so fast. We've been here for the allocated time, and it just feels like at the minute we've just kind of touched the surface, and there's so
Scratched the
much to
tip
go.
of the
So we're
iceberg.
going to have to call you back and do a much longer session where we go into detail. But I know a lot of people who follow us will have questions and they'll be intrigued. And one of the concerns they have is talking to accountants or lawyers or financial advisors is as soon as we pick up the phone, they charge us. And I know you and I have worked together for a long time. So if any of our listeners, whether it's on the radio or on social media or any of the other platforms, wants to contact you and your team, would you be willing and happy for your team members to do some kind of a no cost, no obligation kind of free consultation just to answer their questions so they can get to know a bit more about SAS and help and support them?
Happy to do that, and we'll always offer a free hour to anybody and send them free information. You can't really Google this one. It's not a good Google one, simply because you have to really get into the nitty-gritty rather than the principle. But free. We do a free hour for anyone, and we are more than happy, Shaz, if you want to put together some form of a webinar or an educational event to help people get to know it so they can ask and answer, get the questions answered live. So whatever you want to do, Shaz, I'm more than happy to do that. And thank you for giving me at least a platform to share my enthusiasm about the subject of SAS.
Thank you very much, Kevin. At the start, I was very modest in introducing you. But what I should have really said was that you are a very generous and kind human being, always willing to help others. I mean, you offered a free 1 hour, no cost, no obligation to help and support anybody who has any questions through the radio or the social media platform. So everybody listening, take advantage, talk to Kevin's team. They're experts, they know their stuff, and you've heard in the last best part of 20 minutes everything that they can do in terms of supporting you make investments outside property, so it helps you to mitigate risk. Thank you very much, Kevin. We'll be in touch, and I think we should talk about having a webinar for our Islam Radio listeners.
All right, well, thanks again. I'll just mention it's wealthbuilders.co.uk. But once again, thanks so much,
Thank you,
Kieran.
Kevin.
Really appreciate your time. Bye-bye now.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Thank you, Kevin.
Bye. Well, that's an absolute game changer, isn't it, Kieran?
Isn't it? It's fantastic.
You know, you make investments outside your property business, and then it's in a different wrapper, so it's protected from a risk point of view, and you're contributing money, so you're getting tax relief. When you've got funds there, you can buy commercial property, for example, as Kevin said, in a SAS, and any income that generates, if you don't have a mortgage on it, is 100% in the company. If you have a mortgage on it, you can obviously you'll have to pay repayment of the mortgage, but you can have, say, a Sharia compliant mortgage, and that covers you on that side. But let's say you haven't got a mortgage because you don't want to deal with any form of interest or even a Islamic instrument, and then all the money that goes in there, no tax to pay. So the compounding effect of that is going to be huge over a 10, 15, 20, 25 year period, isn't it? And then
absolutely massive.
And if you invested in property, you've got the rent, the property's appreciated, you want to get out of property or diversify, you can sell that. Okay, no capital gains tax to pay. So a property you bought, let's say 20 years ago, starting with a pension, and you're now selling it 20 years later, and it's had a significant gain, no tax.
Yeah, which is absolutely phenomenal. And this is going to, let's square that circle, as you say, and go right back to the beginning. And for those of you that were listening at the beginning of the show, commercial or residential? Well, if I can use my SAS to buy commercial all the way.
You changed your view, have you? Well, fancy that. I thought I'd never see the day, Kieran.
Well, every day's a learning day, and I learned something new today.
So, and on top of that, what's really beautiful from what Kevin shared with us is that you can involve other family members, up to 11 people. So it could be a husband and wife with your children, with siblings, other family members, parents possibly, Okay, grandchildren, so grandparents can get involved. I mean, we need to explore this more. Obviously,
we need to go much deeper with
Salam
this.
radio listeners and the people on social media and elsewhere are going to be really interested in this even further, because I think this is what we talked about in the first episode, in fact, many moons ago, in terms of you have to have the information available to you to make the right decisions.
You don't know what you don't know.
And this has just opened up a new door, I hope, for some people out there who may have thought, like as you said about residential property, just plain vanilla pension investments. Well, this is a whole different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you said, you can be your own bank. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation.
It's been a fantastic
where
show.
we've talked about
I've loved this show.
mindset, positive, power of negative, preparation, commercial property, residential property, pensions. I hope all of our listeners and viewers have enjoyed it. We're going to see you next week, same place, same time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.